Welcome to the incredible island of Madagascar, home to some of the most fascinating primates on the planet, lemurs. These unique creatures have captivated our hearts for centuries, with their playful antics and adorable faces. Not to mention their presence in our media throughout the years, like in the movie Madagascar with King Julian. But today we aren't here to talk about something so pleasing. We're here to talk about a serious issue: the increasing risk of extinction facing these beloved animals. This is Vanishing Wildlife, and these are the lemurs of Madagascar. The Wikipedia page for lemurs is full of scientific terms that I don't really understand all that well, but from what I gathered, lemurs belong to what is called a suborder of primates named Strepsirrhini, alongside other primates such as loris, potos, and galagos. Further down the classification, they fit into the superfamily called Lemuroidea, which itself is made of several different families. The Cheirogallaidae, that represent the smaller variants of the lemurs, like the dwarfs and mouse lemurs. The Lemuridae and the Indridae. They are easily defined by their wet noses, similar to cats or dogs. The Lepilemuridae, which consists of medium-sized lemurs. Their heads are small relative to their bodies, and their ears are typically rounded. And the Dombentonidae, that only has one living species. More on them a bit later in the video. Lemurs are quadrupedal animals, having slightly bigger back members, long noses and front-facing eyes, providing more precision and better movement, and have evolved in a way that is ideal for moving around the forest in the trees, which is called arboreal locomotion. Their diets consist mostly of fruits, leaves, and bugs. Some will also eat small vertebrates when necessary. Almost all lemurs have what is called a tooth comb, with their uses being different depending on the species, but overall, their main purpose is for both feeding and grooming. Lemurs are a social species. Even nocturnal ones display social tendencies, despite being mostly solitary when hunting. In lemur culture, females are also the dominant gender, and although some exceptions exist, they are a minority. Their fur also differs depending on the environment and climate. In colder areas, the fur tends to be darker in tone and also a bit longer in the ears. All in all, 100+ different species of lemurs are alive today. I'll take this opportunity to show you a few of them. The blue-eyed black lemur. Despite the name, their eyes can be either green, blue, or gray. Females have orange fur, while the males have black fur. The Indri, locally named Babakoto. Indri is the biggest lemur in existence, measuring up to 90 centimeters. Locals believe that the Indri gave birth to humans a long time ago. Madame Bird's mouse lemur. This is the smallest lemur in the world. It was discovered in 1992 and measures only 90 centimeters on average and weighs around 30 grams. The red-roofed lemur. The red-roofed lemur can grow up to 60 centimeters, and its standout feature is the patch of fur around its neck, as well as a white patch on top of their heads. Cockerill sifaka. These lemurs stand out for their beautiful fur, having white and red colored patches. This species was also featured in a children's TV show named Zubumafu, in which this lemur was the title character. Silky sifaka. This lemur has a long and silky white fur, as the name suggests, and is unfortunately hunted a lot locally. They measure around 1 meter head to tail. Hairy-eared dwarf lemur. This is one of the least sighted lemurs known to exist, so photos are scarce. They grow up to 20 centimeters head to tails, have really small and hairy ears, as the name implies, and have apparently a really long tongue compared to other lemurs. Small-toothed sportive lemur. These are a bit hard to distinguish from other similar species of lemurs, with their distinctive feature being their small teeth. They grow up to around 60 centimeters head to tail, and are larger than other lemurs of the same family. Ii. The ii is quite unique, and it's not only in appearance. Measuring up to 60 centimeters, their standout feature are its hands. By tapping on the tree branches with the skinniest finger, they identify where they can find insects and proceed to make a hole in their branch with their teeth. Then, they use the longer finger to pull out the prey. This species was also in the Madagascar movie as Morris. If you want to know more details about this peculiar animal, Animalogic has a great video on them. The link for it will be on the description. Lemurs only inhabit the islands of Madagascar and Comores. In Comores, it is believed that lemurs were introduced by humans. Madagascar is the perfect environment for lemurs to thrive. It has unique biodiversity, mostly due to the fact that the island departed from the African continent millions of years ago, which forced the species that remained on the island to adapt and evolve in unique circumstances. This led to a plethora of unique fauna and flora that can only be found here. From the Fossa, a close relative to the mongoose, that is the island's main predator. The smallest reptile in the world, called nano-chameleon, which was recently discovered, as well as many other species of geckos, birds, and around 14,000 plant species. More than 80% of these plant species can only be found here in Madagascar. Due to all of this variety, ecologists tend to call Madagascar the 8th continent. Sadly, despite being so unique, this hasn't protected the species residing here from the threat that we, humans, are, as many of these species are also endangered. The lemurs are the most endangered species among all of these. Lemurs tend to gather in regions that have higher trees and that are benefited by the rainy weather, which provide more food, and some species choose to relocate throughout the year to search for better food sources. They choose where they inhabit by selecting the places with the best variety of trees. But since a lot of the species do the same, this means food scarcity, prompting them to move around a lot in order to have a proper diet. Habitat loss is the leading factor for the lemur's current situation, with deforestation and forest burnings having driven lemurs away, making them critically endangered, with around 95% of the species being in danger of extinction. Judging by fossil records, lemurs were quite dependent on the forest structure that was in place, having a system that was optimized for constant migration of the species, which now has obviously been disrupted. Something like 40% of Madagascar's forests was lost between the 1950s and the 2000s, mostly due to agriculture, mining, and logging. Hunting is, unfortunately, also a driving factor in their reduced numbers. Lemurs are hunted for a couple of reasons. For one, they're hunted by locals for consumption, both locally and to supply to meat markets in other cities. This is a mix of locals not understanding what kind of danger they are in, not knowing that it's illegal to hunt them, and the need to hunt for food as to not starve. Second, lemurs are also hunted to be kept as pets, which is illegal in a lot of places. But there are exceptions to this legality. In several states of the USA, it is legal to have non-human primates as pets. You just have to fork out a couple $1,000 and you're good to go. Besides being illegal, it's highly immoral to keep them as household pets. I mean, you would think that people would at least research about the type of animal that a lemur is, and from what I found online, speaking for myself, it would be terrible to have one as a pet. But I guess some people are just too stupid for their own good. I'll give you a few reasons why lemurs are terrible to have at home. Lemurs aren't domesticated. They are wild animals, and thus have wild instincts that cannot be completely changed. This means that the cute and cuddly pet you got can beat you up all of a sudden. And if you have kids around, it's even more dangerous. They display quite complex social habits in nature, meaning that they need others from their species around. So separating them from their mothers mere days or even hours after birth causes improper social development in the infants that will last their whole lives. These poor developments will translate later on once they breed, since they don't have the necessary parental skills that they should have learned while still young. They also tend to develop psychological issues, such as self-harm, hair pulling, and being aggressive. Being the social creatures that they are, it's bad that they have to be alone without any other of their species, because people that get them almost always only get one, making for a lonely way of living for them. And no, you, as a human, do not make good company for them in the same sense that you do to, let's say, a dog. There is also, of course, the risk of transmittable diseases, because the people who keep them as pets very likely won't apply any type of protective standards while in their households. It's a bit of an exaggeration, but just imagine, something like COVID could start from lemurs. And goddamn, they cost a shit ton to keep. In this source from the Duke Lemur Center, a sanctuary for lemurs, they claim that the general lifetime cost of a single lemur can go up to 200k, 200,000. And an additional threat to lemurs is superstition, of all things. This is mostly centered around the II. This species is hunted due to locals thinking that they bring bad luck or even death, leading to them being killed on sight. Nature reserves and national parks have been established in order to further protect not just lemurs, but other local species threatened by deforestation. Notably, in 2007, 6 of their natural parks were transformed into a UNESCO World Heritage Site, named the Rainforests of the Atsinanana. With these areas, Madagascar can turn to revenue from ecotourism, supporting locals and providing jobs, and providing less incentive for illegal hunting, since the local communities receive half of the revenue from park entries. Several organizations are working in the nature parks to protect the lemurs living there, with big names such as Wildlife Conservation Society, Worldwide Fund for Nature, among others. There is also the Madagascar Fauna Group, which promotes educations in zoos, field research, conservation planning and breeding programs. Some centers throughout the world focus on aiding lemurs that are out of their natural habitat, aka lemurs that were bought as pets and later abandoned or given away. These spaces are limited, and it's also important to note that not all species of lemurs do well in captivity. Seeing as lemurs attracted a lot of attention towards Madagascar, the ring-tailed lemur was considered the image of the country. Hopefully this will aid in the ceasing of hunting and slow deforestation down, or at least educate more people when it comes to the lemur situation. It's sad to see any species going away in this manner, so if you would like to support some organizations that either care for lemurs that have been abandoned or that try to protect the ones living in the wild, links will be in the description of this video.